We are well over a month throughout this year's NBA season, and we're starting to figure out these teams' identities. And I wanted to update my top 30 NBA team ranking list from 30 to 1. So I did do this in the preseason. This is going to be part 2. We'll probably do another version around or after the trade deadline. And this list is pretty much going to be 30 to 1 on their odds that I think can win the title this year, with all things considered, when you're factoring injuries, style of play, chemistry, and where they are in their specific conferences right now. And like always, if you agree or disagree with anything that I have, I'm sure you may disagree. If you think your favorite team is too low, please let me know down below. And we're going to start off with team 30, which is pretty easy, the worst team in the NBA right now, and it is the Washington Wizards. I don't really think there's a debate about that. Compared to a lot of teams that we're going to talk about this low in the rankings, the Wizards have been one of the more healthier teams here at the bottom of the NBA, and currently they are the worst team in the NBA in terms of net rating, and they are the worst offensive team and defensive team in the NBA. They've hit the trifecta. They are 3-19 right now. They are dead last in the Eastern Conference. They've had a double-digit losing streak already this year, and I'm not sure it's going to be the last. I think Jordan Poole has been a fine offensive player, and Malcolm Brogdon has given them some moments. Same with Jonas Valanciunas. There's been some up and downs with the rookies like Bob Carrington, Alex Sarr, and Keyshawn George to be expected. Bilal Coulibaly has cooled off a little bit since his hot start, and Kyle Kuzma has not really been an efficient scorer either this year. They are one of the worst defensive teams over the last couple of years as well, but this was always going to be another rebuilding year, and hopefully at the end of it, the Washington Wizards can capture the flag. Coming in at number 29, I have the Utah Jazz, the team that is 14th in the Western Conference, and the team behind them in the West right now has had so many injuries, so I think the Utah Jazz are going to be the worst team in the West throughout most of the season. They are currently 27th in the NBA in terms of net rating. They are the 25th team in terms of offense, 29th in terms of defense. They have been rough on that end of the floor this year, but you know what? It's kind of a good thing that they're this bad. Maybe in hindsight, they would have liked to sell high on Lauri Markkanen, as he's just been fine this year. Maybe his value goes down a little bit, especially since he got the new contract extension. Some of their young guys have been playing well, some have been playing poorly, and they're probably going to trade off their veterans like Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, and maybe a surprise trade with Walker Kessler at the deadline. So I expect this team to get much worse because they're trying to capture the flag as well, or end up with a Dylan Harper or an Ace Bailey in Utah. Next up at 28, I have the 13th seed in the Western Conference, the Portland Trailblazers. They are 8-16 right now. Their defense actually has been kind of solid this year, and it's because of Donovan Clingan, what he's been doing as a rookie, and Toumani Camara, who definitely deserves to be in some all defensive team conversations right now, but they are a struggling offensive team. Some of their guys that they probably would have liked to move, like DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant, maybe Anthony Simons, have been disappointing on the offensive end of the floor this year. Scoot Henderson really hasn't taken that year 2 leap that I'm sure Portland and their front office would have liked. Shaedon Sharpe and Denny Avdija have given you some moments as well, but they're struggling with their efficiency. But I think it's really just building around Shaedon Sharpe. Hopefully Scoot Henderson and Donovan Clingan, trade as many veterans as you can, and then bottom out to get another top pick, like the Jazz and Wizards are trying to do so as well. Coming in at number 27, I do have the Charlotte Hornets. They're going to be the second Eastern Conference team that we're going to talk about. They are 7-17. They're currently 13th in the East, and they are 26th in the NBA in terms of net rating. This team is a tough watch offensively with LaMelo Ball hurt. Brandon Miller has been great in year number 2. I talked about Scoot really not jumping out in year number 2. Brandon Miller definitely has, and this has been great experience for Brandon Miller to operate as a number 1 option. They lost Grant Williams for the year. Miles Bridges has been disappointing, especially with that new contract. I expect them to trade some veterans at the deadline. Maybe they get a nice deal for Cody Martin or Josh Green. Maybe they move a Nick Richards because Mark Williams is back, and Musa Diabates honestly shown a lot of promise as a rebounder at the center spot. So I expect this team to get a little bit worse throughout the year, especially without LaMelo Ball, but I do think they're figuring out the team around them, and this year is just pretty much another evaluation year throughout their rebuild. Coming in at number 26, we have the Toronto Raptors. They are 14th in the Eastern Conference right now. They are 7-18 on the year. I think they're a little bit more enjoyable to watch than the Charlotte Hornets without their top star, as I do enjoy watching Brandon Miller without LaMelo Ball in Charlotte, and the Raptors have been without Scotty Barnes on multiple occasions this year. They are 24th in the NBA in terms of net rating. They're the 23rd ranked defensive team, 21st offensively, and I just kind of like watching RJ Barrett out there. I think he's had a really good first full year so far in Toronto. Jakob Poeltl is having a bounce back year, and we'll see if he's going to be a trade candidate. Grady Dick is showing some flashes this year. Davion Mitchell, Ochai Agbaji, some pleasant surprises over there in Toronto. I like what I've been seeing out of Jonathan Mogbo and Jamal Shed at times earlier in the year, and Jacoby Walter as of late. We haven't really seen Emmanuel Quickly this year. He's only played 3 games, which has been kind of unfortunate. I just like this Raptors team a little bit more than Charlotte right now, especially without Scotty Barnes, and I do think they could end up trading like a Kelly Olynyk or Jakob Poeltl at the deadline. It just may be a little bit less likely than what these teams behind them end up selling. All right, so I have the 29th ranked team in net rating coming here at 25, and that's the New Orleans Pelicans. They're 5-20, they're dead last in the Western Conference, but honestly, they're not the worst team in the West. It's because they've had so many injuries this year. Brandon Ingram hurt, Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Jordan Hawkins, Trey Murphy have all missed time due to injuries this year. Jose Alvarado as well. They're relying so much on Yves Missi at times. Brandon Boston, they had to pick up Elfrid Payton off a couch to give them notable minutes, and he had a 20 assist game. This Pelicans team is not as bad as their 5-20 record show. Now, they may trade Brandon Ingram. Zion Williamson may miss another 20 games, but I only think that they're this low because of injuries, and they're starting to get guys healthy again. Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray, who I didn't even mention before, got hurt in night one, are back into the swing of things. I'm sure they're regretting the DeJounte Murray trade a little bit because of what Dyson Daniels is doing in Atlanta right now, but I do think, like I said, they're better than this 5-20 record, and I think they'll get better and better as they just get healthier. But yeah, just being this low is definitely disappointing to what the Pelicans had as expectations-wise preseason. I do wonder if we're going to see a Brandon Ingram trade sooner than later. Coming in at number 24, I have the Chicago Bulls. They're currently 10-15. They're the 10th ranked team in the Eastern Conference, and they're the 27th ranked team defensively, 12th offensively. They've been, enjoyable to watch on the offensive end, but it is a tough watch on the defensive side of the floor. Just watching Nikola Vucevic try to rim protect, Zach LaVine and Josh Giddey try to guard guys on the perimeter, or even Kobe White at times. It is not enjoyable, but hey, they do have a lot of fun offensive guys on their team. Zach LaVine has been efficient this year. Same with Nikola Vucevic, which is a nice surprise. You would like maybe for Ayo Dosunmu or Patrick Williams, or maybe Kobe White within the three-point line to be a little bit more efficient this year. I do expect them to make some trades because their pick is top 10 protected. So where they are right now, they're going to end up getting like the 11th or 12th overall pick, and they got to give it to San Antonio. I expect them to drop in these rankings. Coming in at number 23, I have the Detroit Pistons, who are kind of the opposite of the Chicago Bulls right now. They have been a league average defensive team. They're 15th in the NBA in terms of defense, but they're 22nd in terms of offense, puts them 19th in terms of net rating. They've had their fair share of injuries this year, as Asor Thompson missed a decent chunk to start off the year. He just recently came back. Cade's missed a little bit of time, and they got poor starts out of Tobias Harris and Simone Fontecchio, and I think Jalen Duren needs to be better on the defensive end of the floor. Maybe I'm being disrespectful to the Detroit Pistons because you expect this team to get better throughout the course of this year. So Pistons fans, let me know if I'm underselling your team in the comments. But coming in at number 22, the team that is ranked 22nd in terms of net rating, I have the Brooklyn Nets. Man, preseason, I had them as one of the worst teams in the NBA, and here I have them ranked 22nd. So I expect them to drop in future rankings just because right now they are playing like that. They are 10-14, 8th in the Eastern Conference. And I do wonder if they continue to win more games, would they just not trade Dennis Schroeder and maybe extend him? Would they not trade Cam Johnson or Dorian Finney-Smith? This is a really weird year for the Nets right now. Jordy Fernandez has done a great job as a year one coach over there. They've been an above average offensive team. They do struggle defensively, and that's expected when you have Schroeder and Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson at times out there. So the Nets are a hard team to rank because I do expect them to trade their veterans once December 15th happens, and they're probably going to drop. But hey, they're going to get rotational players back for those veterans, so maybe Jordy Fernandez is just going to coach this team into a play-in tournament spot. Coming in at number 21, I have the team ranked 12th in the Eastern Conference, and that is the 7-15 Philadelphia 76ers. Kind of like the New Orleans Pelicans, I have the 76ers a little bit higher up just because the reason why they were so bad to start off the year, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid have all missed a decent amount of time this year. They're relying a ton on Jared McCain as a rookie, or Gershon Yabusele, who didn't even play in the NBA last year. And I don't think the Sixers team is great even when healthy. They need to work out a lot of things right now because people thought that he could maybe make a run, make it to their first conference finals appearance in the Joel Embiid era this year. It's been kind of the opposite. People are coming for Nick Nurse's job. So having them ranked 21, I thought was fair because when they are healthy, they're definitely better than the 21st ranked team in the NBA. Just how much are we going to see the big three and Jared McCain play together this year? Coming in at number 20, I want to say I was wrong about this team in my preseason rankings. I have the San Antonio Spurs. They've been a lot more competitive than I would have thought this year. They are 12-12. They're 11th in the Western Conference. Maybe that's just Chris Paul effect, and I should have known that he was going to do that to this team because the Spurs are around a league average offensive and defensive team. Devin Vassell has been more efficient over the last couple of games. Obviously, Chris Paul is handling this half court. Jeremy Sohan got off to a good start, then he got injured, but it looks like he's back into the full swing of things. Victor Wembanyama is still an elite two-way player in year number 2 and is probably going to win his first depoy. They're getting good production out of rookie Stephon Castle. Julian Champagnie has been a nice rotational piece for them. And yeah, I just want to say I was wrong about the Spurs, and they are way more competitive than I thought they were going to be. And a team that has been way less competitive than I thought they were going to be. So the opposite of the Spurs to my preseason expectations, the Indiana Pacers. They're coming in here at number 19. This team was just in the Eastern Conference Finals and brought everybody back, and they are currently 10-15. They are the 23rd ranked team in terms of net rating. They can't defend anybody right now. And the weirdest development this year has to be Tyrese Halliburton's home road splits, as so far this year, throughout 11 games at home, he's got a 62% true shooting percentage and is averaging 21 points and 9 assists. And on the road this year, in 14 games, he has a 49% true shooting percentage. He's shooting 36% from the field and 26% from three on the road and is averaging just 14 points. Obviously, they've been hit with the injury bug this year. Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman out for the year. Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard got hurt to start off the year. And I think they're struggling to figure out their identity right now. And then obviously in hindsight, you can look back at it. Okay, the Bucks were hurt in the playoffs. The Knicks were hurt in the playoffs. Is that why they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals? But this is a deep team, and I thought they'd be able to withstand these injuries. But obviously, when you're getting hit to multiple rotational guys, it's hard to come back from. So they're coming in here at 19. I think they finished better than this at the end of the year, but for now, I have to put them here. Coming in at number 18, a team that got off to a great start this year under a rookie head coach, but I think we all knew their ceiling as a team, especially in the Western Conference, and that is the LA Lakers. So the LA Lakers, 13-11, they're 8th in the Western Conference right now. They are the 26th ranked defensive team, but the 13th ranked offensive team puts them at 20 in net rating in the NBA. So yeah, they definitely need to add some defense at the trade deadline. I expect them to make a trade. They're fine offensively, and I think they need to go back to making Anthony Davis the priority of this offense that we saw him in the beginning of the year in this offense under JJ Redick. Obviously, he has a lot to work on, especially figuring out the roles of D'Angelo Russell, Max Christie, Rui Hachimura for this team going forward, and will they even be on this team after the trade deadline? Because LeBron isn't getting any younger. We've said this for the last couple of years. I expect this team to kind of look a lot different after the trade deadline and maybe even sooner. So coming in at number 17, I have a team that's ranked 18th in offense, 18th in defense, and 18th in net rating, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. And Hawks fans, let me know, should this team be higher than 17? They had an electric win against the LA Lakers. They just beat the Knicks to go to Vegas in the NBA Cup, and they beat them at Madison Square Garden. They're getting great defense out of the Great Barrier Reef. Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, and Zachary Sachet. Trae Young has been the best playmaker this year, and I just love what I've been seeing out of Jalen Johnson, also on the offensive end of the floor. This team got better by trading DeJounte Murray for Dyson Daniels. He just fits this team so much better. And I think Quinn Snyder was always getting overlooked as a head coach because the dynamic of those Hawks teams in the past never really worked out. And I also think DeAndre Hunter is taking a year 6 leap this year as well. So I think all the metrics have them around this range right now, but maybe they're trending in the right direction. And as Zachary Sachet and Daniels get even more feel for the game around Trae Young throughout the course of this year, this team may look even better in the next couple of months and could be a legitimate top 6 seed in the East. So coming in at 16, I have a team that is currently 12th in the Western Conference. They're a game under 500, the 12-13 Sacramento Kings, but I think they're better than their record shows. The Kings this year, they're a top 10 offense. They're ranked 7th in the NBA. They're a top 15 defense, ranked 13th in the NBA. So they're 11th in net rating right now, and I think they've just had some unfortunate losses. They got off to a really tough start schedule-wise in the beginning of the year. Obviously, the Western Conference is way more competitive than the East. So I know like the Kings are a lot lower in the seedings in the West compared to like the Hawks in the East, and I had the Kings ahead of them. It just goes to show you how much more competitive the West is. De'Aaron Fox has been fine this year. Same with DeMontis Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan. They need to get better play out of Keegan Murray because he is dropping off a little bit after peaking in his rookie season. I think they need more consistency out of their bench unit, especially Keon Ellis on the offensive end. And obviously like guys like Trey Lyles and Kevin Huerter who are playing notable rotational minutes to be better for this team as well. I expect them to make a trade this year. And like I said in the beginning of talking about the Kings, I think they're better than what their record shows. Coming in at number 15, I think they're pretty much the most mid team in the NBA, which is a compliment, especially to their preseason expectations. The LA Clippers, who are 14-11, they're 6th in the Western Conference, and they still get to add Kawhi Leonard this year. They are a tough team to watch offensively, especially when James Harden isn't going and it's an off night for him, but they are an elite defensive team this year. And I love what the front office did. They said, you know what, we're not giving Paul George that extra year. We're going to parlay him into Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr., two really good defenders. And Chris Dunn has been unreal this year on the defensive end of the floor. They're getting more touches for guys like Amir Coffey, Ivica Zubac, Norman Powell, and Jordan Miller. And I think this team could look to make another move or two. They have some matching salary that they could send out there. So I think the Clippers could definitely be a playoff team this year. And you definitely will take that if you're a Clippers fan, because the beginning of the year, you maybe thought this is going to be a disaster. We're going to have to give the Thunder our first round pick. It could be Cooper Flagg, but no, this has been a much better year for the Clips in the new arena. Another tough team to figure out that I have coming in here at 14. They got off to an abysmal start. They were 2-9 to start off the year, but they've been much better as of late. And that is the 13-11 Milwaukee Bucks. They're currently 15th in the NBA in terms of net rating. They're a solid defensive team. They're a solid offensive team. They're just solid all around as they're getting Chris Middleton back into the swing of things. Bobby Portis has been at least better on the offensive end. I know he struggles defensively, but they're getting production out of AJ Green. Damian Lillard bounced back here for him. He looks so much better this year than he did at the start of last year's season for Milwaukee. And Giannis is playing like an MVP candidate. If it wasn't for that guy in Denver, he'd be the front runner right now, in my opinion. And I think just goes to show you how the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference is going to be the 14th best team in the NBA. So coming in at number 13, I have the Phoenix Suns, and they're a tough team to rank right now because when Kevin Durant was healthy, they were one of the best teams in the NBA, and they were one of the best clutch teams as well. Mike Budenholzer was doing a great job in his first year in Phoenix, but they are struggling without Kevin Durant. This defense has been tough, and I don't know how they upgrade the center position from Yusuf Nurkic to a better defender this year unless they want to trade away their 2031 first, which I don't really know if that's the wisest idea in the world, but Matt Ishbia, the owner, wants to win right now. They've been a great offensive team, even with Devin Booker being off to a weird start this year, but still a very productive offensive player. Tyus Jones is paying dividends. Ryan Dunn helps him out defensively. I think Bradley Beal is a fine number 3 option, not when he's taking up that much percentage of the cap space, but is still a good player on that end of the floor. Grayson Allen has struggled. Maybe they trade him just to his expectations from how elite of a 3-point shooter he was last year when he was shooting the best 3-point percentage in the NBA. Royce O'Neal has been a good 3-and-D player. They're just a tough team to figure out right now because full strength, maybe they're able to make a run, but I think so many teams in the West just match up better than Phoenix come playoff time, and you're relying a lot on a 36-year-old Kevin Durant to be healthy throughout the rest of this year's season. Coming in at number 12, one spot ahead of Phoenix, I do have the Denver Nuggets, who are 12-10 right now. They're 7th in the Western Conference. They got off to a rocky start like Milwaukee as well. They're 13th in the NBA in terms of net rating. They're an elite offensive team, especially because they have the MVP on their team right now, Nikola Jokic, who's having the best year of his career, and he's definitely on his way to getting his 4th MVP award. This team needs to work on their defense. Jamal Murray has struggled this year. I think you'd like for some other rotational players to step up, but Christian Brown's going to be most improved player conversations. Russell Westbrook's bringing them a lot of energy on both ends of the floor, even when he's not knocking down shots. So the Nuggets have the best player in the world right now, and if he ever got hurt, this team would drop probably like 10 to 15 spots. Coming in at number 11, a team that star player is now in trade rumors, and that is the Miami Heat, who are 12-10 right now. They're 5th in the Eastern Conference, and they have been, I think, a borderline top 10 team this year. So they got up to a gross start. There's still times where Jimmy Butler doesn't even really look like he wants to be there, and Bam Adebayo is having arguably the worst year of his career offensively as well, but Tyler Hero is playing like an all-star. This team is 12th in the NBA in terms of net rating. They're the 11th ranked defensive team. They're the 9th ranked offensive team, and this is with Jaime Jaquez maybe having a slow start to year number 2. Terry Rozier hasn't been as expected. Josh Richardson has been abysmal. Nikola Jovic isn't breaking out. I'm not really sure how this team is this good right now outside of Tyler Hero being an all-star and Eric Spoelstra just being arguably the best coach in the NBA. So to kick off the top 10, I have the team that is 8th in net rating, 4th in defense, and they are 17th in offense, and that is the Golden State Warriors, who had somewhat of an easy schedule to start off the year. They have not been really winning their big-time games as the Houston Rockets played them great defensively in their NBA Cup game. Obviously, Steph has been great this year. Andrew Wiggins has been good. Jonathan Kuminga maybe more inconsistent than you would like. Buddy Hield has slowed down a little bit, but is still a good player this year. Podziemski's been disappointing. They lost to Anthony Melton for the year. Draymond is great defensively. We know that, and is actually getting a little bit of an offensive bump compared to recent years. I think this team changes a little bit. I think they're around the 10th ranked team, and I think you take that relative to what the Warriors were preseason expectations. Some people thought they weren't even going to make the play-in tournament, and here they are, 5th in the Western Conference throughout about a third of the NBA season. Coming in at number 9, a team that I was always going to be more patient with, as well as my 8th overall team, just because they made a big trade in the offseason. I have the Minnesota Timberwolves here. They're 12-11. They're 9th in the Western Conference, but they're a top 10 team in terms of net rating. They're an elite defensive team still, and yes, they've been struggling offensively, but I still think they're just trying to put it together with no Karl Anthony Towns there. Hindsight, the way Cat's playing, maybe they regret the deal, but obviously there was more financial implications to making that deal than we may think. Anthony Edwards is playing like an all-NBA guy this year. I think Randall's been productive. Same with Naz Reid, same with Rudy Gobert, and definitely Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And right now, they're a top 10 team in terms of net rating, and that's with Dante DiVincenzo being disappointing, Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels, at least on the offensive end of the floor. I hope they get Rob Dillingham, and maybe Terrence Shannon Jr. eventually more into the swing of things. I could expect them to make a move at the deadline to upgrade this team, but I think they're better than their record shows because it was always going to take some time to get a feel for this team after trading away your second best player in Karl Anthony Towns in the offseason. And it was really late in the offseason as well. Because one spot ahead of Minnesota, I do have the New York Knicks coming in here at number 8. The Knicks just lost a game they definitely should have won against the Atlanta Hawks, and it just goes to show you how good Atlanta's defense has been. The Knicks are 7th in the NBA in terms of net rating. They're around league average defensively, which is a big drop off from last year. Obviously trading away DiVincenzo, Isaiah Hartenstein leaves in free agency, Mitchell Robinson is hurt. That's going to hurt your defense, but they're the 3rd ranked offensive team team. They were round number 1 in offense throughout a decent chunk of the year. Karl Anthony Towns is playing like a top 10 player in the NBA. Jalen Brunson, maybe a little bit more inconsistent than you would like, and he didn't show up in a big moment on national television against the Atlanta Hawks, but has still been a good playmaking point guard for the team. Mikal Bridges, inconsistent this year for sure, but I think is getting a lot better as of late into this new offense in New York. Josh Hart has been great. OG Anunoby has been a great two-way player for this team. They do lack a bench. They're going to be getting Mitchell Robinson back, but if this team suffers a notable injury, I'm going to have to drop them down a little bit because their depth is not good right now. And they've had some good wins this year against Milwaukee and Denver, but they've had some bad losses to the Jazz, the Bulls, and the Pistons in games that they were never really in at times as well. So if the Knicks can figure that out, I think they'd be okay, but I'm definitely going downhill a little bit on the Knicks because 15-10, maybe that's a little bit better than we think. But like I said, for Minnesota, I was always going to give it a little bit more time for the Knicks since they're trying to figure out this new offense with Karl Anthony Towns and definitely a new defense. Coming in at number 7, they're maybe the most impressive team this year because of the injuries they've suffered and they haven't cratered. The 17-10, third seed in the Eastern Conference, Orlando Magic. They lost Paolo Banchero about 5 games into the NBA season. Franz Wagner steps up as a number 1 option. Then he goes down with a similar injury. And now Jalen Suggs, Goga Badatse, Anthony Black, these guys are stepping up, and Orlando is such a good defensive team. And you know what? This could maybe be a blessing in disguise because when we watched Orlando in the playoffs last year and times without Paolo, guys struggle to create their own shots. But we've seen Franz now, I think, take a step as a shot creator and as a playmaker. And right now, with Franz and Paolo out, we're seeing a similar leap from Jalen Suggs, which I think could be a huge X factor because we know how good Jalen Suggs can be as a complementary piece, as a defender on the point of attack, on the perimeter, and what he can do as a post defender against bigger players. And he's a positive 3-point shooter, but if he could turn into a viable scoring option for you, where you can now give him the rock, isolation, and let him cook, hey, that could be a scary trio for Orlando. And they're just going to build up chemistry and continuity, and they're going to be right here at the top of the East for years to come. They're 9th in net rating right now because they're an elite defensive team. They struggle overall offensively, but we saw how good Franz was before he got hurt and Paolo was before he got hurt. I think they're going to be just fine. Coming in at number 6, a team that I tweeted about that I think could take maybe a similar jump to what we saw from like maybe the Thunder or the Magic last year because they're relatively a young team, the Houston Rockets, who are currently 2nd in the Western Conference right now. They're 17-8. They're 6th in the NBA in terms of net rating. They are 2nd ranked in defense, 20th ranked in offense, but they are so much fun to watch defensively with their young duo of Tari Eason and Amen Thompson. But I think we got to give love to guys like Jabari Smith Jr. and Dylan Brooks, who have also been good defensively this year. Alperen Şengün has been very solid offensively over the last couple of games. The one thing I'm a little bit nervous for the Houston Rockets is Jalen Green's consistency because he has been very inconsistent offensively this year. And if they could figure out just that number 1 option, and then Şengün eventually becomes like a really good number 2, this Rockets team could be a title contender if they could pull that off. It was tough to pick the Rockets at 6 and then the Memphis Grizzlies here were coming in here at 5. I was going back and forth between those two teams, but Memphis right now is top 5 in offensive rating. They're top 5 in defensive rating, the only team in the NBA to currently do that. They're 3rd in the Western Conference. They're 17-8, and they've had a plethora of injuries this year. Jaws missed some time. Desmond Bane has missed some time. Zach Edey, Marcus Smart, these guys are missing some time. Gigi Jackson hasn't played yet. Vince Williams has played just 3 games this year, but they're finding the diamonds in the rough again. Scottie Pippen Jr., Jay Huff, Jalen Wells have given them productive minutes this year. I think Taylor Jenkins is still one of the more underrated coaches in this league. Triple J is playing like an all-star. John Morant's becoming more of a facilitator, and this team at full strength, maybe they make another move, could end up as a top seed in the Western Conference when it's all said and done. Coming in at number 4, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I have the team that is 1st in the Eastern Conference, the 21-4 Cleveland Cavaliers. If we're going based off records, they'd be the number 1 team here, but we're not just doing that. But I still think the Cavs have been unreal this year. When I talked about chemistry and continuity with the Orlando Magic a couple spots ago, same thing applies here for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They just got Max Strus back. They carried over pretty much the same team from last year's season, and Donovan Mitchell has been good this year. Garland has been super efficient. You're getting maybe a little bit of a leap from Evan Mobley this year. Jared Allen has been as consistent as he's been over the last couple of years. They have a great new head coach in Kenny Atkinson, and I think they are the clear number 2 team in the Eastern Conference when we hit the playoffs. But I do want to respect my number 3 team a little bit more than the Cavs just because they were in the NBA Finals last year. They are 16-9 in the Western Conference, the Dallas Mavericks. They are currently the 4th seed over there. Luka Doncic has missed some time, but they played very well without Luka, and that's because of Kyrie, Najee Marshall, PJ Washington, maybe the most underrated defender in the NBA, and Quentin Grimes. And that's with Luka's efficiency not being great this year, at least at the start of the season. Klay Thompson maybe been somewhat disappointing so far for this team. Same with Jaden Hardy, but I do think they have the assets to make a trade if they want to. I do think Jason Kidd has done a good job coaching this team. They still have one of the best center duos in the NBA in Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. I know they just lost to the Thunder, but I do think they are the 2nd best team in the Western Conference. I guess I just spoiled my number 2 team maybe, but you know what? I'm not going OKC at 2. I'm going Boston at number 2. Yes, I do think Boston is still the best team in the Eastern Conference. I know Cleveland has a better record than them, as Boston beat Cleveland to give them their first loss of the year. I know Cleveland beat Boston, but Boston was banged up, and in the playoffs, I'm still going to take Boston over Cleveland in a 7-game playoff series. They're a top 3 team in terms of net rating, number 2 ranked offense. They're the 9th ranked defensive team. I know maybe you would like a little bit more offensively out of Jaylen Brown or Drew Holiday this year, but Brown has been better as of late. You're still getting elite defense out of Drew Holiday. Derek White, I think, deserves to be in all-star conversations, maybe Peyton Pritchard as well. And then it's always a big if, but if Kristaps Porzingis can be healthy once again in the playoffs and Jason Tatum playing like this, I still think Boston is the team to beat in the East, but maybe not the NBA, because at number 1, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. I just raved about the Atlanta Hawks defense at times and the Houston Rockets and Memphis's defense this year. Well, OKC, the number 1 team this year in terms of defensive rating. They're number 1 in net rating, 8th ranked offense. This is without Chet Holmgren right now. So we talk about how good Houston's defense is. OKC's a little bit better in terms of net rating. And I mentioned how Houston struggles to have that number 1 option. Like some nights it is Şengün, some nights it can be Van Vliet or Jalen Green. Well, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an MVP candidate. 30 points this year, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. Jalen Williams is turning into one of the great number 2 options in this league, and Chet has only played 10 games. Hartenstein has only played 9 games, but I'm so excited to watch these two together out there because they could just make this defense somehow even better, and Chet gives them another advantage offensively. Casey Wallace is a good defender. Alex Caruso, who has struggled this year offensively, still an elite defender. I think Kenrich Williams, also one of the more underrated defenders in this league. And oh yeah, Lou Dort as well. Add in some elite 3-point shooting from Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. This team could make a trade if they want to, but they have a good head coach in Mark Daigneault, and I still think they are the finals favorites right now. So yeah, that is gonna be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy my new updated 30-1 NBA rankings. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you agree with or disagree with, and hit that subscribe button if you are not already for NBA content all season long. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.